When I got my DUI and I got charged with $10K in bills, even though I was a broke college kid, I thought my life was over. My name is Jose Zamora, 24 years old. I grew up in Dalton, Georgia. I was originally born in Mexico. I thought I was gonna be like everyone, go to college, get my degree, and do the same thing that everyone does. Fortunately, but fortunately, that wasn't the path for me. So let me tell you where it all started. It started back when I was in high school. I was hanging out with the wrong people. I'd be surrounded by people who were always drinking, were always partying, were always wasting their lives. And honestly, I don't blame it on them, but I blame myself for surrounding myself by those people. I got influenced to do the wrong things. I was drinking, I was partying, and one day, I ended up getting a DUI. Honestly, I was broke at the time. I was 17 years old. I had a Camaro, blue Camaro, still remember to this day. I could put a picture of it right here. And, I honestly thought everything had gone to shit, Like, it was literally one of the worst days of my life. Here I am, like, almost 10K deep into what I had to pay to the court, to the county, to whatever, you know how you had to pay a bunch of fees whenever you get a DUI. All right, I was finally done with that, right? So I thought every single person I was surrounded by during those hard times, they were never there for me. The only people that were there for me were my family. So I was like, all right, my family came all the way from Mexico over here to give me a better life, and this is what I'm doing with my life. Something has to change. So that day, I still remember to this day, the day I decided to change everything. So I was going to college, right? I was gonna make my parents proud. I was gonna get my college degree. I actually got my associate's degree, and I was gonna be an engineer. I was gonna get my engineering degree, electrical engineering. But soon after I transferred to Kennesaw, I realized that I was on the wrong path, that God had something else for me. So I've said it in a lot of my videos, but I ran into a buddy of mine. His name's Jay. He was running a successful landscaping company, and he really inspired me to get started. He was 22 years old at the time. I was 19, my brother was 21, and I saw him with a F350 Platinum. I remember he had a 3500 Chevy, heavy duty, dually, and he had another truck, dump trailer. He bought a house. He showed me his bank account. He had a lot of money, right? And I was like, if this guy can do it, why can't I do it? So I started searching up online how to do things, watching YouTube videos, and I came upon one of my mentors. His name is Grant Cardone. I still remember to this day, I had $2,000 in my bank account. I paid $1,000 for the ticket. It's the 10X boot camp. I spent $500 over there in Miami. I drove all the way to Miami because I didn't have the money for a flight. We drove 12 hours, we went to the event, and that's when my mind completely changed. Someone showed me that they were making over 60 million a year. And I came back and I was like, they're making over 60 million a year, they're normal human beings, and I can't even make 10K a month. How is that possible? So I decided to make a change. I started knocking doors, I started putting out flyers, I started doing anything I could just to make money because I had to pay rent, I needed money, we had just gotten a truck. There was no freaking way, there's no other option that we had. We had pressure on our sides. So I had to perform. It was either that or I go back to Dalton, Georgia and tell my parents I couldn't do it on my own. And I was not gonna do that. So what I did is every single day I would go door knocking to the biggest houses I could find. Because usually the biggest houses are either entrepreneur or they're high in corporate. And they understand the hustle. They've been through the hard times, they've been through the hustle. So if they see a young person hustling and trying to make money, they might give you an opportunity. All of them won't give you an opportunity, but the one that does, that opened doors to other opportunities. So we started door knocking. I still remember our first job. It was trimming some bushes, installing some mulch, and cutting down some ivy. I was so happy when we got our first job. I was like, this is possible. We can do it. We started knocking on more doors. We started getting more jobs. And eventually we got enough to pay our bills. Now we need to make enough to invest into marketing. So after a while, we got enough to invest into marketing. We started marketing on an app called Thumbtack. Don't market on Thumbtack. Those leads are trash. I didn't know any better. There's better sources of marketing like Facebook, Instagram, Google. Don't market on Thumbtack. garbage. So after, I would say like 6 months of marketing, we ran into our biggest concrete job till this day. And I tell you, I didn't have any concrete experience till that day. So I still remember it. My brother came back from the consultation and he told me, hey bro, I just sold $70,000 concrete job. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, bro. And he showed me the check for the deposit and I was like, there's no way. He's like, yeah, bro. So what we did is he mixed his sales skills with a subcontractor. He found a subcontractor that did concrete, got some information from him, and then his sales experience from knocking doors, and then he closed the job. He did a little research on YouTube, and you know, we got the deal. So now we need to figure out how to do it. We found the most reliable subcontractor we could find. He charges $15K for his labor, and then the materials, another $15K. We made 40 grand on that project. That was really my turning point where I was like, damn, like we can make a lot of money in landscaping, in concrete, in construction. So after that, we went all in. We took that 40 grand and invested it all into Facebook ads. And that's really when we started scaling. We invested, I would say out of those 40 grand, we invested like 30 grand that year into marketing, and it gave us a return of $750,000 that year. After that year, we did, I would say the next year we did around 1.2 million. And this year we're aiming for 2 million. So that's a little bit of my story. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you guys for watching.